You may have seen reports from all over the world about what's happening in UK, with the UK's the most healthiest politics has ever been in the UK, with men and women of integrity leading the way. That's what I'm going to be talking about in this video, except I'm joking about the men and women of integrity. We're going to be talking about the corruption in the UK political system.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
Hi everybody, this is Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto. And one of the things that will stop you getting rich in any field is corruption, which is what we're going to be talking about with my guest Jim Ferguson. I'll introduce him in a moment. Now, before I introduce him, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT, join my official Telegram announcements channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, well, you won't be, because YouTube doesn't like some of the stuff that I put out, which is why it censored me and shadow banned me. So please subscribe to me on bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey, and we can talk freely. And I put up the sort of videos on Odyssey that YouTube doesn't approve of. And please do comment, subscribe, just comment. I really, really appreciate your comments. Throw me some ticker symbols for some cryptos. They always go down well. Okay, Jim, thank you so much for making yourself available. You are a former MEP candidate or parliamentary for the Brexit Party, or what?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I wasn't a member of the European Parliament, but I was a candidate in the election when I joined the Brexit Party. Yeah, absolutely. And then I was a parliamentary candidate for Westminster. That's correct.
Right. Okay. So you didn't get to represent Brexit Party, but you stood for them.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And for people who don't know, because the Brexit Party is no more, do you just want to say a little bit about the Brexit Party and what they were about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my journey into the Brexit Party started sitting at home watching the news coming on, and there was Nigel Farage, who I've always respected. I used to listen to him when he was in the European Parliament speaking to EU commissioners and running circles around them. He was really good, a fantastic orator. And there he was announcing the start of the Brexit Party. So I spent quite a bit of time that afternoon, and they were going to launch the Brexit Party at a steelworks in Coventry. And I made the decision to go and to be part of that. And I went down, to cut a long story short, got through security, and I was one of the first people to arrive. They got me to sit on the stage, much to my surprise, but I think they wanted some other people up there, so that when Nigel came out, he wasn't on his own. But I ended up being a couple of rows just behind Nigel Farage, and of course all the television crews and cameras came in and started pointing my way. So it was an incredible experience to see him. I'd never seen him live before, and he stood up. And there was an energy in the room that was very captivating, I have to say. And I ended up being introduced to a couple of other people there, one of whom was quite senior within the party, asked me about my background, wanted me to then come and meet him and some other people at a later point, which I did. And then I was invited to stand as one of the candidates for the European election. And I was number 3 on the list. And worked extensively, started to work extensively there, where I ended up doing all of the TV debates, on BBC, STV, and all of the sort of the hustings debates where your opposite numbers are there arguing policy. So I did all of that. I was very happy to do it. Ended up being recruited further into the party after the European election had finished. I did go across to Brussels and I was engaging with members of the European Party, members of the European Brexit MEPs. And of course, when I came back there, I was down in London helping to recruit, to vet other prospective parliamentary candidates at that point. So I was travelling all over the country doing that. So my role within the Brexit Party was quite extensive, and I was very proud of the fact that some of the best candidates were actually my recruits. So that's really how it happened, and we all worked extensively to build that sort of framework and that foundation, which then led on to what reform is today. And I'm happy to talk to you about that, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them on the Brexit Party as well.
Sure. So the Brexit Party evolved into reform. There was the referendum and people voted to leave, and I was one of the people that voted to leave, as well as many of my family members voted to leave. And then we've got a sort of Brexit and the Northern Ireland Protocol hanging on for dear life to keep us tethered to the EU in one way or another. but the Brexit Party became Reform. So are you now a representative of Reform UK? Is that...
No, I'm not, Rich. I didn't, because I was involved with other projects at the time. Not everybody that was in the Brexit Party went across. I think it surprises a lot of people to hear that I, who had been so involved with the Brexit Party, didn't move into Reform. But there were some very, very genuine reasons as to why I didn't want to do that, because when you're a political candidate, you have to be really very serious about what you're doing. There's an enormous sacrifice that has to be made in terms of time and commitment. And I had done that with the Brexit Party on 2 elections, both the European Parliament and then the Westminster. And of course, when I was the Westminster parliamentary candidate, I stood in a seat called Barnsley East. And interestingly enough, my entire team were all traditional Labour left. I was the only right-winger there. That just goes to show how well it's true. It goes to show how well we can work together. And that's why I'm so passionate about reaching out to people who might be on the left of centre to those of us on the right, because in actual fact, we have a lot more in common than people realise. But it's not till you sit down and talk to people that you understand that properly.
Yes.
Absolutely. So Reform, I didn't become a member of Reform, but of course Nigel Farage is still there. Richard Tice is the leader, and I've been quite outspoken about why I think Reform needs to change path and needs to change direction. Because when Nigel handed it over to Richard Tice, he handed over a very strong party that had a great deal of loyalty and support from its members, and indeed from the wider audience. And I've seen that slipping significantly. And this might be the last best opportunity that we have to try to crack the very tough nut, which is called first past the post, which is a very difficult system for smaller parties to master. And it's extremely important that there are some kind of consensus between the smaller parties, who are actually all very similarly minded. Indeed, since I've been speaking out over the last 3-4 weeks, the leaders of several UK political parties have reached out to me publicly and also privately to discuss what could be done. And unfortunately, Reform hasn't reciprocated. And I think that's a huge mistake, because they're not going to succeed trying to go it alone. And I would like to see the formation of an alliance, a national alliance, that could help to mount a very serious political attack on those who are on the Conservative side, Tory side, and those who are on the current Labour side. Because both those parties, I have to say, Rich, is the traditional Labour left has got nothing in common with the modern Labour Party at the moment. The traditional Labour Party was started by a chap called Keir Hardie. He was a fellow Scot, actually, down in Glasgow. And you can't even begin to see even remotely any kind of similarity to what the Labour Party used to be to what it is now. And it's fair to say that the Conservative Party, that used to be strong on defence, strong on law and order, strong on traditional family values, is weak on all of these things, including immigration. So there are a lot of people within the Conservative Party.
Now, the topic gets increasingly controversial from this point, so if you want to hear the rest of this interview, then please come over to my Odyssey channel, bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey, where I've posted the video in full. bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey.